The beacon blinked like a dying firefly, and I knew the second I saw it that this job was going to be more trouble than it was worth. Salvage jobs always were. Either someone got there first and left behind a coffee mug and 3 rusty bolts, or what you found was so ancient and hostile that it tried to vaporize you the moment you said hello. But rent doesn't pay itself, and fuel cells don't grow on trees, especially not out here in the Veltraxis dead zone, which was basically a graveyard for spaceships and sanity. I thumbed the control panel, sighing as Cora, my ship's onboard AI, activated her voice protocol with the usual dramatic flair of a failed theater actress. "Ah, Captain Rennick," she said, stretching my name like she was bored just saying it. "You're not seriously considering diving into that asterisk, are you?" The beacon pulsed again on the screen, weak, irregular, like a heartbeat that didn't know it was supposed to be dead. My instincts told me to move on. My wallet told me to shut up and follow the signal. "It's probably a wreck," I muttered. "Oh good, we haven't been almost killed by derelict warships in asterisk days asterisk." I rolled my eyes, guiding the ship toward the source. The coordinates were static-criddled and ancient, buried under encryption protocols that looked like they were written before Earth had indoor plumbing. But the beacon was definitely StoRyI in design. That meant high-tech alien alloys, maybe even data cores, if the ship hadn't been picked clean over the last few centuries. We passed through a dust field of shattered hull fragments, some still etched with alien glyphs. Cora dimmed the exterior lights as we approached the mass at the center of it all. A sleek, obsidian-colored vessel, shaped almost like a bird mid-dive. The ship wasn't just old, it was regal. There were curves where most warships had angles, gold filigree traced along its hull, half buried under asteroid dust and centuries of forgotten war. "Okay," I admitted. "That's not a rust bucket." "You're adorable when you understate," Cora quipped. "Shall I prepare the funeral music?" The docking bay hissed open with surprising ease. That was the first warning sign. Ancient ships don't usually roll out the red carpet. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered along the ceiling, illuminating murals painted on the inner hull, StoRyI script, their royal sigils, scenes of war, peace, stars being born and dying. The kind of stuff you usually see in temples, not cargo bays. "I think we found ourselves a royal shuttle," I said, walking down the corridor, bootsteps echoing like I had a ghost for company. "Please try not to lick anything," Cora said over the comms. "Alien pathogens don't pair well with your blood type. I'll be sure not to French kiss the consoles." Again, the deeper I went, the colder it became. Not metaphorically, I mean frost on the walls cold. The ship's core power was dead, but residual energy pulses came in short gasps. Then I saw it. A chamber shaped like a flower bud, petals peeled back around what remained of a stasis pod. It had shattered. The pod wasn't just broken. It had been torn open from the asterisk inside asterisk. I raised my blaster instinctively, sweeping the room. My breath fogged in the air. The lights flickered again and something moved. A small form was curled on the ground near the pod. Blankets, well, maybe ceremonial robes, were bunched around it. I lowered the weapon slightly, stepping forward with cautious disbelief. It was a child. No older than 4 or 5 in human terms, though the slight glow to his skin and the shape of his eyes suggested otherwise. His skin was the color of starlight, soft silver blue with faint traceries of light beneath the surface, like bioluminescent veins. His hair was a soft white that defied gravity in tufts. He blinked as I approached, eyes wide and eerily calm, and then he said it. "Dad." I froze. I have faced pirates, warbots, exploding moons, and once a genetically engineered snake cat that could phase through walls. But nothing asterisk, prepared me for the moment an alien toddler looked at me with complete confidence and called me Dad asterisk. Cora's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Did he just?" "Yes," I whispered, still staring. "He said asterisk Dad asterisk right." "Yes, Cora." There was a long pause. "Captain Rennick, I hate to ask this, but is there any chance you've misplaced a child recently?" "Pretty sure I'd remember." The kid reached out a tiny hand. I flinched instinctively, then felt stupid because he just touched my sleeve and smiled like I'd brought him a pony. I crouched down slowly. "Hey there, buddy, you okay?" He blinked once, then twice, and then he sneezed, which sent out a mild shockwave that toppled a nearby console, nothing major, just enough to make my eyebrows curl. "Well," I muttered, "that's new." Cora let out a digital groan. "Great. He's adorable and a walking imp. What's next, laser diapers?" The boy child, whatever he was, grabbed my hand. His grip was firm, warm, and he glowed a little more brightly when our skin touched. Not in a scary, radioactive way, more like recognition. I scanned him with my wrist pad. The results came in with a bunch of error codes and one clear message. Genetic compatibility detected, 64. 2% match. I leaned back against the wall, heart pounding. You've got to be kidding me. Cora was silent for once. The child curled up against me, already drifting off again. Like this was the most normal thing in the world. Like being woken up in the middle of an ancient alien warship and finding your alleged father was just Tuesday. I stared at the wrecked pod, then at the mural behind it, an image of a Nitharari princess holding a small child in a field of stars. I should have walked away. Instead, I sighed. Fine, I muttered. You can stay, but I'm not changing any diapers older than 500 years. I'll start printing a parenting manual, Cora offered. Title: How to Raise a Glowing Alien Messiah You Accidentally Fathered. Chapter 1, Don't Panic. I'm already panicking. Perfect, you're halfway there. I looked down at the boy sleeping beside me, curled up like I'd always been there. I didn't know what I'd found. A mystery? A curse? A second chance? All I knew was, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. The kid woke up mid-jump, launched directly into the ceiling like gravity was a suggestion he decided to ignore. He hovered there for a second, blinking at me upside down, legs tucked into his chest like he was just getting comfortable. Okay, I said, rubbing sleep from my eyes. So we're doing that now. The boy rotated gently in the air, then began to drift sideways, leaving a faint trail of shimmer like he was dragging stardust behind him. Cora whirred in my earpiece. I ran a scan while you snored like a freight engine, Captain. Our guest appears to be emitting low-level gravitic pulses from an organ that, for lack of a better word, I'm calling a asterisk float bladder. Also, you've been drooled on. I looked down. My jacket had a suspiciously damp patch on the shoulder. The kid, still glowing faintly and defying the laws of physics, gave me a sleepy grin. I pointed a finger at him. You better come with an instruction manual. Dad, he said again, like it was a punchline I hadn't gotten yet. Cora snorted. You know, you could be more supportive. Statistically, you're now a single father on a haunted spaceship with a gravity-bending toddler who thinks you're his biological destiny. This is peak sitcom material. You are not helping. I stood, stretching the kinks out of my back. The chamber was still dim, the air sharp with recycled frost. The ship hadn't shifted much overnight, which I took as a win. I tapped into my wrist pad and brought up schematics I'd stolen. I mean borrowed asterisk from the wreck's flickering data nodes. Power distribution was minimal, but life support was holding, and there were signs of activity near the core. Looks like we're not alone in here, I murmured. Correction, Cora said. We asterisk are alone unless you count the suspicious heat signatures moving near the engine room, which I absolutely do. Probably automated systems, or rats. Captain, this ship is older than half the planets in the Union, made by a race that considered rats an insult to fungus. If something's moving, it's not vermin. It's legacy tech, possibly sentient. Probably deadly. I sighed and looked at the kid again. He had floated down to inspect a broken console and was now poking it like he expected it to tell jokes. You break it, you buy it. He pressed something, and the console sparked to life with a musical chime. The entire chamber lit up around us, revealing Nitharari glyphs and wall panels that shimmered with stored memories. A holographic interface unfolded like origami made of light. Okay, I take it back, break everything. The interface played a visual. A recording of a Nitharari woman, tall, regal, with a face that made me feel like a badly assembled sock puppet just by comparison. Her eyes were the same color as the boy S. She was holding a small bundle, swaddled in midnight blue, and singing in a language I didn't understand, though I felt it in my teeth. Cora translated with a pause. That's a lullaby. Something about stars watching while you sleep and ships guarding your dreams. Also something about incinerating anyone who threatens your bloodline. Oh, I said, classic parenting. The boy reached toward the projection, tiny fingers grazing the air as if trying to touch the woman's face. She looked at him, right at him, and then her gaze shifted. To me. Her tone changed, firmer, urgent. Cora's voice caught slightly. She's saying to the one who finds my son, protect him. You are bound to him. You are chosen. His power will awaken, and when it does, they will come for him. Be ready. Then the image vanished. I exhaled slowly. The boy looked at me with unnerving calm, like he understood more than he let on. So, I said, no pressure. I scooped him up and tucked him into my arm like a very luminous sack of potatoes. He wriggled, but didn't complain. I headed back through the corridor toward the command deck. If I could restore a little more power, maybe I could access the star map again, see where this ship had been going, figure out who wanted a glowing toddler turned into space confetti. Halfway down the corridor, something moved behind us. Cora, I whispered. I see it, she replied grimly. Rear camera picked up a shadow, humanoid, definitely not you, possibly holographic, possibly hunting us. You always know how to make me feel better. That's what I'm here for, along with moral judgment and emergency coffee recipes. I ducked into a side chamber, sealed the door, and propped the kid on a diagnostic console. He immediately pressed 5 buttons in sequence and activated a StoRyI chessboard made of shifting light. I narrowed my eyes. Are you playing? He blinked at me. Then he moved a glowing piece and looked up expectantly. Not now, Starbug. Bug, he said happily, pointing at his own chest. Oh no, I muttered. I've named him. Too late, Cora sang. Welcome to fatherhood. Next comes the phase where he draws on your walls and vaporizes your toaster. The console beside me flared to life again. A low humming filled the air and the floor beneath us vibrated faintly. Systems were awakening, slowly, reluctantly, like an ancient god being roused from a nap it didn't want to take in the first place. I tapped into the ship's map. A fresh set of coordinates lit up uncharted space beyond any known lanes, labeled in glowing glyphs as asterisk veils promise. Princess Isaril, I said aloud, this ship belonged to her. That woman, that's who he belongs to. Cora hesitated. Do you think she's still alive? If she was, would she leave her kid here? Maybe she didn't have a choice. We were quiet a moment. Then Starbug sneezed again and a nearby screen shattered. Right, I muttered. We'll discuss ancient politics after we toddler-proof this death trap. I picked him up again, tried to avoid the fragments of sparking screen. The shadow we'd seen earlier hadn't returned, but the sense of being watched hadn't faded. And now there was a hum in the air that hadn't been there before. Not mechanical, not even energy-based. It felt like anticipation. Like the ship was waiting for something, or someone. Starbug tugged at my collar, pulling my face closer to his. He looked at me with those 2 big eyes, his voice quiet and sincere. Home. I opened my mouth, didn't know what to say. Maybe yes, maybe not yet, maybe never, but I nodded anyway. Yeah, I said softly. Let's find it together. Cora sighed dramatically in my ear. Captain, I just wanted on record that I opposed this sentimental nonsense from the beginning. Duly noted, I said. Now get the engines ready. We're going to find out what Veil's promise really means. Excellent. Shall I prepare emergency parenting protocols and alien lullabies? Just keep the coffee hot. Already did. And I added sprinkles. I stared at the star map again. The past was coming for us. The future had already arrived. And the kid beside me? He was the weirdest, most dangerous, most incredible thing I'd ever found in the void. And for better or worse, he was mine. The star map was still hovering in the air like a patient librarian waiting for me to ask the right question. Lines of unfamiliar constellations, warped gravitational wells, and a cluster of systems that didn't appear on any known charts spiraled outward from the central node labeled asterisk Veil's promise asterisk. It felt less like coordinates and more like an invitation written in ancient starlight and sealed with a royal smirk. Starbug was attempting to eat the map. Not food, I said for the 5th time, gently removing his glowing fingers from the holographic display. He looked personally offended by the idea. Sparkly, he muttered. Yes, sparkly, still not edible. You want sparkly food, you can have the jelly cubes from the ration drawer, the blue ones that scream. Scream, exactly. Cora's voice chimed in, too chipper for my taste. Captain, I've traced the origin pulse of that map. It's nested deep in the ship's memory root. Might be an AI, might also be a StoRyI ghost. Either way, it wants us to go somewhere. Of course it does, I muttered. That's what all ancient ships want, to drag some poor idiot across the galaxy on a mythic journey of self-discovery. Look on the bright side. At least you have a toddler with telekinetic powers and an undeclared royal bloodline to keep you company. That's practically a travel perk. Remind me to disable your sarcasm filters. You removed those yourself 3 years ago because you said it made me more relatable. I was drunk and emotional. You cried at an ad for space insurance. I ignored her and focused on the data streams trickling through the interface. Each pulse of information came with a flicker of memory, images, voices, impressions. A palace orbiting a red dwarf star, silver-armored guards with curved rifles, a lullaby sung in a language that made my molars itch. And again the same woman, ISci, her holographic presence more vivid with each layer unlocked. She was always calm, always looking just off-center from the camera like she was watching something behind it. Maybe me, maybe him. Starbug was now sitting cross-legged on the floor, balancing a wrench on his head and humming to himself. Occasionally the wrench floated. "Cora, give me a systems check. Anything near us." Nothing on scopes, dead zones living up to its name. Although I'm picking up weird interference, like a signal trying to mask itself. Weird as in artificial. Weird as in sentient, but polite it keeps knocking. I blinked, knocking. There was a soft asterisk thump on the outer hull. I looked up, then it repeated. 3 gentle taps. Cora said, so either it's an alien intruder with manners or a space octopus with a social life. I ran to the viewport, pulling back the shielding layer. Outside, something drifted along the edge of the docking wing. It looked like a ship, sort of. The hull was pieced together from scrap and salvage, welded at odd angles, and someone had painted a grinning skull on the side, with flowers and glitter. "Pirates," I said flatly. "Well, asterisk technically smugglers," Cora corrected. "That's Jet's ship, the lilac bastard asterisk. He customized the thrusters to sound like a saxophone." "Why do I know him?" "You lost a bet to him once, and had to wear a sequined cape for a month." "Oh, asterisk that Jet." The comm system chirped. I answered. Jet's face popped up on screen, beaming like he'd just been reunited with a lost sandwich. "Cal, you beautiful, reckless, underpaid skyroach. I heard your signal and thought, only he would be dumb enough to power up a StoRyI cruiser in this quadrant." "Hi, Jet, still alive, huh?" "Barely, and you?" "I have a glowing child who can levitate cutlery, and may or may not be the heir to an extinct alien empire." Jet blinked, then leaned closer to his screen. "Did you say glowing child?" "Yep." "You adopt again?" "No." "Clone yourself?" "No." "Well, congrats on the accidental royalty. Need a babysitter. I charge in chocolate and nap time." Behind me, Starbug shouted, "Bug," and floated upside down into view. Jet fell silent for a long moment, then whistled. "He's cute. Unnerving, but cute. You gonna tell me how this happened?" Short version, found him in a stasis pod on a derelict. He called me Dad, then he broke physics. Jet cackled. "Classic Cal. Okay, listen. I was heading toward Tharkin Fringe anyway, but I can hang around. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a war historian who might know what the hell Vale's promise is." "You think this leads somewhere real?" "With that kid glowing like a lantern fish, I think it leads somewhere important asterisk, and possibly explosive." Cora cut in. "Captain, I've just completed a scan. There's a quantum signature in the ship's old logs. Matches with a StoRyI data cache hidden inside the asteroid belt near Miris V." Jet perked up. "Data cache, hull, I'm in." "I didn't invite you." "You never do, I bring snacks." Fine, but if you touch the espresso supply, I asterisk vent you." 10 minutes later, Jet's ridiculous ship docked, playing synthesized jazz through the airlock channel. He stepped aboard wearing a leather vest, an eye patch he absolutely didn't need, and boots that squeaked. Starbug ran up to him, stared, then poked his kneecap. "Bug," he said solemnly. Jet gave me a thumb. We dropped out of hypershift like a brick falling out of a dream, which, according to Jet, was the only proper way to arrive anywhere if you want to make an entrance and a dent. His ship decelerated beside mine, creaking like a disapproving grandmother in a rocking chair made of bad decisions. "Welcome to Miris V," Cora said over comms, voice thick with disdain. "Population, rocks, rust, and regret." Jet's voice followed immediately after, far too cheerful. "And don't forget buried treasure, probably cursed, maybe flammable." Starbug was in my lap again, having decided his co-pilot seat was too far from the snack dispenser. He was eating something that looked like a dried fruit bar but smelled like engine coolant. I pried it gently from his fingers. "We talked about licking components." "Blue yums," he said mournfully. "You'll thank me when your kidneys don't melt." We coasted in toward the inner ring of the asteroid belt. The ship's sensors pinged constantly. Debris, old mining scaffolds, and the occasional floating satellite that looked like it had been chewed on by something with too many teeth. Cora brought up the signal again. "Cache is located within a collapsed mining dome on one of the central asteroids. Partial atmosphere, minimal power, lots of lovely ways to die." "Any life signs?" I asked. Not unless you count Jet's fashion choices. Jet pinged us. I'm hearing you, Cora, and I'll have you know this vest has survived 2 prison breaks and 1 awkward wedding. We docked with the dome's outer edge and climbed through a maintenance tunnel barely wide enough for my shoulders and Starbug's ego. He kept floating ahead of me, turning in slow loops like a happy satellite. Jet crawled behind us, grumbling. I knew I should have sent a drone. I called back. You'd trust your drone with ancient alien data and a possibly messianic toddler. Yes, my drone doesn't try to eat wires. Yet. The interior of the dome had collapsed inward, forming a rough cavern of shattered consoles and frozen walls. In the center, a StoRyI artifact pulsed with faint golden light. The shape was vaguely crystalline, vaguely cube, and entirely pretentious. Jet stared at it. That's gotta be the cache. You think it's trapped? Cora answered before I could. Yes, almost definitely. The energy signature around it is encoded in 3 layers of fail-safes, 1 moral puzzle, and something that looks like an emotional test, possibly involving music. Jet frowned. So what you're saying is, this is a feelings-based death trap? Pretty much. Starbug floated toward the artifact, hands out. Wait, I shouted, scrambling forward. Don't. He tapped it, the artifact lit up. It didn't explode. Instead, a voice filled the air, rich, female, regal, and tired. To the heir of Vale's blood, welcome. Cora gasped. He's got clearance. The kid has *admin access. Jet blinked. Okay, now I'm scared. The artifact's shell unfolded like petals, revealing a floating core of swirling data threads. Holograms sprang to life, star charts, battle maps, ancient orders. Then a final image appeared. The princess again, ISci, speaking in the same calm voice that made my chest tighten like I owed her money and an apology. If you are seeing this, she said, then my son has survived. Starbug floated quietly, his wide eyes locked on her face. He didn't blink. She continued. He carries within him the echo of our power. But he is not just our future, he is our * choice, and he must choose who he becomes. Jet muttered, real uplifting for a galactic prophecy. Shush, I whispered. The princess looked toward me, right at me. Even if it was just a recording, something about it made my knees uncomfortably aware of gravity. You, she said. If you are the one holding him, then you have been marked by our trust. Protect him. Teach him joy. Teach him restraint. Above all, teach him laughter. I blinked. What? Jet asked. She said laughter. The recording ended. We stood in silence for a long beat. Then Starbug burped, and a nearby console shorted out with a puff of purple smoke. Well, Jet said, he's off to a strong start. We hauled the data core back to the ship and plugged it into Cora's auxiliary port. She immediately groaned. Oh, great, StoRyI OS. This'll take hours to interface unless I install 15 poetic updates and answer riddles. Get started, I said. He's important and I want answers. Starbug sat in the pilot chair now, pretending to steer us into a black hole. I nudged him gently. Hey, that princess, that was your mom. He nodded. You remember her. He tilted his head. Songs warm, safe, gone. Jet whistled low. Kid's got poetry in him. Or trauma. Same thing half the time. I looked out the viewport. The unregistered ship that had been following us was gone now, but something told me we'd see it again, probably right when things were going well. Cora pinged me. Good news, I've decoded a portion of the memory core. Bad news, it confirms the boy is not just royalty. He's a * symbol. A trigger. There are people who will do anything to make sure he never activates whatever Espin left buried. Jet raised an eyebrow, and you're just okay with this? No, I said, but I wasn't okay with diapers either, and look how that turned out. Starbug was spinning slowly in place now, giggling as he used a spoon to stir the air. I sighed. He needs protection. He needs a home, and apparently, he needs to laugh. Jet clapped me on the back. Then let's make him laugh so loud the galaxy can hear him. Just not with your * jokes. They're * cultured. They're * illegal in 3 systems. Cora chimed in again. Final note, the core includes coordinates, ancient, locked, and labeled * Vale's gate. I narrowed my eyes. That's next, isn't it? Almost certainly. I'm prepping the engines. I've named this operation Fatherhood, the Reckoning. Jet grinned. I like this adventure. It's got mystery, ancient tech, floating kids, and you finally acting like a responsible adult. I grunted. Remind me to punch you later. Starbug yawned, curled into a ball, and glowed softly in his sleep. I looked at the sleeping boy and whispered, You're gonna change everything, aren't you? He didn't answer, but something in the ship hummed in response, and I knew we were just getting started. Cora refused to stop playing dramatic music. It started as soon as we locked coordinates for Vale's gate. Swelling violins, choral murmurs, the occasional gong. I didn't even know we had gongs. "Is this necessary?" I asked, gripping the armrest as the ship surged into hypershift. "It's tradition," she said. "Every hero's journey needs a soundtrack." Also, the kid clapped the first time it played, so now it's locked in. Starbug was bobbing up and down in zero-G like an over-enthusiastic balloon, squealing at every beat drop like we were flying through an opera house instead of cold void. Jet slouched in the co-pilot chair, adjusted his ridiculous goggles, and muttered, "If this ends in us crashing into a god's mailbox, I'm blaming your parenting skills." I'm still figuring out if I'm the dad or just the universe's punchline. "That's what parenting is," Jet said, nodding sagely, "but with more laundry." The ship shuddered as we dropped out of hypershift. Before us, Vale's gate hung in space like a broken crown. 9 colossal arches carved from obsidian and laced with Nitharari script, orbiting a pulsing singularity that bent light in ways my eyes didn't appreciate. It was the kind of place that made history books nervous and religion sweaty. "Well," I said, "that's ominous." Cora whistled. "According to the data core, the gate is a threshold, a passage, possibly a test." "Define test," Jet said warily. "Because I failed math 3 years in a row, and I'm not emotionally prepared to be vaporized by a pop quiz." Starbug floated up beside us, blinking slowly at the gate. He tilted his head, then raised his hand. "Wait, don't touch anything," I started because of course I did. He pointed at the gate and whispered, "Open." It did. The central arch flared to life, rings of light spinning outward like ripples across space itself. The singularity stilled. A corridor of stable energy unfolded between the arches, leading somewhere very far and very specific. Jet leaned back. "Okay, kid's magic." "Don't say that," I muttered. "Last time someone said that, a toaster turned into a sentient philosopher and refused to make toast unless we debated morality. I won that debate. You set it on fire." "Same thing." Cora coughed politely. "Shall I proceed through the gate, or shall we sit here until one of you says something heroic?" "Go," I said, but cautiously, heroism optional. As we passed through the arch, the ship systems flickered. For a few seconds, time felt wrong, thicker, slower. My skin itched like it remembered future bruises, then it cleared. We emerged into a vast, dark void. No stars, no debris. Just a floating construct, huge, spiral-shaped, glittering with impossible geometry. Parts of it shimmered out of phase as if reality couldn't quite contain it. Starbug clapped. "Home," he said softly. I didn't argue. We docked in a bay that looked like it hadn't seen visitors since the universe was in diapers. As we disembarked, the walls lit with symbols that responded to Starbug's presence. Not me, not Jet. Just him. A voice echoed in the chamber. Female, familiar. "Welcome, Era Vale." Jet whispered, "I swear if this is another mom hologram, I'm gonna need a drink." A projection materialized. Not Isaril this time, but a figure in ceremonial armor. She looked stern, like a librarian with access to orbital weaponry. "You have come to the threshold," she said. "You must be weighed." I froze. "Oh no, not that kind of test." Jet paled. "If this is metaphorical, I'm fine. If it's literal, I need to lie about my holiday meals." The woman continued, "The air will face the echo. The bonded must witness. The unbound must wait." Starbug blinked, then vanished in a blink of light. I shouted, reaching forward, but my hand passed through air. Jet put a hand on my shoulder. "He's got this. I mean, I have no data to back that up, but you look like you need reassurance." Cora whispered in my earpiece. "He's somewhere inside the construct, energy levels spiking, no threat detected, just resonance." "Thanks," I muttered, very specific. The floor beneath us began to glow. Not hostile, not friendly. Just aware, I sat down hard, too overwhelmed to keep standing. Jet sat beside me, legs splayed out like he was at a beach picnic. "You ever think we were just supposed to be delivery guys?" he said. "You know, drop off the magic baby, get a receipt, go home. Every hours. Want to make up a backstory for how we got here that doesn't involve existential dread. Sure, we're on a game show. Perfect. First prize, Galactic peace. Second prize, eternal confusion. We waited, time passed weirdly, long, short, both. Finally, the light returned. Starbug appeared standing this time, not floating. His eyes were glowing brighter and he looked older, not in body. Just in posture, in understanding. He smiled when he saw me, then tackled me like a kid again. "Dad," he shouted. I caught him, arms wrapping tight. "You okay?" He nodded. I saw her. "Your mom?" He nodded again. "She sang." I swallowed hard. Jet blinked fast, pretending to rub dust from his eye. The projection woman returned. "The heir is chosen, the bonded is worthy, the path forward is unlocked." Then she vanished. Back on the ship, Cora was quiet. She only spoke when the engines were engaged and the gate receded behind us. "You realize," she said, "he's now awakened." "What does that mean?" "It means others will know, others will feel it. The boy isn't just a prince anymore. He's a asterisk beacon." "Wonderful," I muttered. "Glowing kid, interstellar prophecy, ancient gate, what's next?" Jet opened a cupboard. Snacks. Starbug reached up and took a bar. Then he looked out the viewport, voice small. "They're coming." We all followed his gaze. In the distance, shapes were stirring. "Dark, fast, wrong," Cora whispered. "I'm picking up 12, no, 14 ships. No IDs, no broadcasts, just heat signatures and sharp trajectories." Jet looked at me. "Wanna run?" I really do. Starbug whispered, "They want to take me." I put a hand on his shoulder. "Let them try." Cora deployed evasive maneuvers with all the grace of a caffeinated octopus in a wind tunnel. The ship lurched sideways, flipped backward, and then executed a full spiral that left my stomach clinging to the inside of my teeth. Somewhere behind me, Jet was screaming, not in fear but in protest. "You call asterisk that a barrel roll? My gran could have done better with one wing and a broomstick." Cora's voice was sharp. "Your gran didn't have 13 unidentified hostiles launching heat-seeking, emotion-sensitive missiles." "Emotion-sensitive." I barked, strapping Starbug into a jump seat that he had immediately converted into a pillow fort. "What does that even mean?" Cora replied, "They target adrenaline spikes, fear, anger. Basically, if you're emotionally unstable, you're their lunch." Jet threw up his hands. "We're asterisk doomed. We travel with a glowing toddler and a salvage pilot with unresolved issues. I once cried because my pants didn't fit." "Then sit very still and think about taxes," I shouted. The kid, for his part, was giggling inside the pillow fort and humming. I don't know what was more terrifying, that he wasn't scared or that the ship seemed to be subtly bending to his mood. Lights pulsed in rhythm with his tune. Console readouts softened around him. The air even smelled slightly of sugar plums. I made a mental note to never, ever let him get overtired. We ducked behind a moon fragment the size of a stadium and vented coolant to mask our heat. The missiles veered past us and detonated into a distant nebula. The resulting light show was beautiful and also a pretty good metaphor for my blood pressure. Jet slumped beside me. "Okay, so who exactly did we annoy?" "I mean, it's a long list," I said. "But I'm guessing these aren't just random pirates. They knew about the gate. They knew when the kid would activate." Cora confirmed, cross-referencing energy signatures. "Yep, these aren't just any ships. They're Ashen kin." Jet blinked. "Wait, the asterisk Ashen kin? The fanatics who think royal bloodlines are curses and want to reset the galaxy through fire." "The very same. Known for ceremonial armor, impossible tech, and making terrible dinner conversation." "Fantastic," he muttered. "We've ticked off ancient space cultists." Starbug peeked out of his fort and said, "Angry hats." "What?" "Angry hats," he repeated, miming a weird, pointy shape over his head. I looked at Jet. He might not be wrong. Cora zoomed in on one of the pursuing ships. A faint emblem was painted along its hull, jagged, blood-red triangles forming a crown. It was unmistakable. "Their flagship is deploying grapplers," she said. "They want us alive." I groaned. Why does everyone want to talk first and shoot later these days? What happened to good old-fashioned ignoring each other in space? Jet pulled open the emergency locker and yanked out 3 stun grenades, a baton, and what I sincerely hoped was not a sentient burrito. "I vote we board them first." "Are you out of your mind?" "Definitely." "Good, let's do it." We reversed course mid-spin and engaged the forward thrusters. Cora adjusted our shielding with a subtle flick of energy that caused our ship's hull to shimmer like a chameleon at a disco. Their targeting systems faltered just long enough for us to punch through their outer perimeter. We docked hard with the nearest ship. The airlock whined in protest. Jet grinned. "Permission to make new enemies." "Granted," I said, drawing my blaster. "Captain," Cora added, "I'll monitor Starbug, but I must advise that leaving him unattended with a library of glowing buttons is a calculated risk. He's 5, how bad could it be?" We entered the enemy ship, guns drawn, and found ourselves in a greenhouse. Jet blinked. Okay, this is a weird cult. Rows of bioluminescent plants stretched to the ceiling. A soothing chime echoed overhead. And in the center stood a woman in ceremonial robe. The nav system refused to plot a route. Cora's voice echoed from the console like a frustrated librarian. Captain, I've tried every algorithm, every star map overlay, and one ancient Nitharari divination protocol that required chanting over a cup of lukewarm tea. Nothing. These coordinates lead to blank space. Jet leaned over my shoulder, chewing on a protein stick that smelled like regret and cheese. Could be cloaked, could be phased, could be a trap wrapped in mystery dipped in cosmic nonsense. You say that like it's not our standard Tuesday, I muttered. Starbug was drawing on the wall again. This time in glowing orange marker I definitely hadn't given him. The lines weren't random, tight curves and loops, like glyphs from a language that hadn't been spoken in millennia but still somehow felt familiar. Cora chimed in, curious. That looks like Nitharari path scripting. Which means? I asked. It's not a map, it's a asterisk key. Jet squinted. You're telling me the glowing child is drawing our way to the final location with his alien crayon set. I mean, it tracks, I said. It's either that or he's reinventing jazz as a written language. Starbug held up the marker. Go here, he said solemnly, pointing at a cluster of symbols. We followed. It wasn't a jump so much as a slide. One moment we were idling in normal space, and the next we were somewhere else entirely, surrounded by shifting starlight and a sense of enormous depth, like the galaxy had folded in on itself and left us sitting in the crease. Jet made a strangled sound. Okay, we're in a pocket dimension again. Cora whispered, correction, asterisk not again. This one is stable, artificially maintained, and layered with psychic insulation. Psychic insulation? I asked. Prevents reality from leaking in too hard, like space bubble wrap. The space ahead of us unfurled, slowly, like it was deciding whether we were worthy of seeing what was behind the curtain. A structure appeared, not a ship. Not a station, a temple, or maybe a vault. It pulsed faintly with the same frequency as Starbug's glow. He took my hand and whispered, it's where she left it. Jet snorted. Left what? Royal baby pictures, a planet-sized rattle. Cora answered. The archive, the princess's final memory bank, possibly her last command node, possibly a sentient AI. Of course it's sentient, I groaned. Why wouldn't it be sentient? Everything around this kid is either ancient, magical, or has opinions. The landing bay opened as we approached. No defense systems, no guards, just silence and the faint sound of wind where there shouldn't be any. We disembarked cautiously. Jet had 2 blasters holstered, a scanner in one hand and a lollipop in the other. Why the lollipop? I asked. For courage. Isn't that one sour grapefruit flavor? Exactly. Nothing more terrifying than that. Inside the archive, the walls shimmered. Holograms flickered in and out of visibility, snapshots of a civilization that once spanned hundreds of systems. Starbug wandered between them like he knew where he was going. Maybe he did. At the far end, a chamber opened with a sound like a sigh. The floor lit beneath our feet, recognizing our presence, or his, probably his. Everything always lit up for him. I couldn't even get my coffee machine to recognize my thumbprint. In the center of the room stood a column of crystal, about the height of a person, humming softly. She's here, Starbug said, walking forward. A hologram flickered into existence. It was Isaril, older, worn, but smiling. My son, she said. If you're seeing this, then the time has come. Jet whispered, I swear if she tells us to go on a quest, I'm flipping something. She continued, the Ashen kin believe our legacy should be erased. That bloodlines are dangerous. That power must not pass by right but by force. Too late, I muttered. But you are not just my heir, she said. You are my asterisk hope asterisk, and you are not alone. She looked at me again, always at me. You who carry him, she said, you were never meant to be a soldier. You were meant to be his asterisk anchor, his teacher, his laughter, his asterisk home asterisk. Starbug looked up at me. I blinked a few times too fast. The image dimmed. Inside this archive is knowledge that must never fall into the wrong hands. You, my son, must choose what to awaken, what to keep hidden, what to share, and with whom. Jet rubbed his temples. No pressure. Just choose what bits of your heritage can destroy civilizations. The console glowed under Starbug's hand. Symbols appeared, cycling like options on a menu none of us could read. He hesitated, then tapped one. The entire archive pulsed. Cora's voice was tight. That was a broadcast signal, wide spectrum, encrypted, but someone definitely noticed. Define someone, I said. A galaxy. Jet groaned. Every kingdom, pirate lord, scholar, and lunatic within range now knows the heir just made a decision. Any idea what he asterisk chose? Starbug looked back at us and said, stories. Cora confirmed. He just opened the historical records. Not weapons, not tech. The asterisk stories of the Nitharari people. Their art, their philosophy, their truth. Jet blinked. That's actually kind of beautiful. And possibly foolish, Cora added, but certainly brave. A soft alarm pinged on my wristpad. They're coming again, I said. Who this time? Everyone. Jet sighed, so we fight. No, I said, we asterisk run. And then we share the stories before they can be buried again. Starbug climbed into his seat and gave us a sleepy smile. Tell them, he whispered, all of it. Jet nodded. Guess we're librarians now. Armed librarians, I said. Armed asterisk and sarcastic asterisk. Cora chuckled and slightly doomed. I glanced at Starbug, then forward, then back at him again. No, I said, not doomed. Just beginning, the broadcast rippled across the stars. Cora patched into 50 networks at once, half of which hadn't been used since the era of syntactic radio, and the rest of which required ceremonial encryption and a small prayer to something with too many vowels in its name. Jet stood at the helm, flicking between comms like a space DJ on a redemption arc. Starbug was in the galley, painting the floor with noodles and declaring it art. I was making coffee, real coffee. Not the recycled sludge we'd survived on for weeks, but beans Jet had hidden in a stasis pod labeled emergency rations for emotional events only. It tasted like closure and cinnamon. Signals holding, Cora reported. The archive feed is stable. The kid's storybook upload is being accessed by 92,000 systems and one lonely mining bot who just sent a thumbs-up emoji. Jet leaned back with a grin. That's our legacy. Uplifting sentient mining equipment. I sipped my coffee and stared out the viewport. The stars felt different now, less like obstacles, more like witnesses. A soft chime came from the corner. Starbug wandered in, holding a wrench like a scepter and wearing one of my socks on his head. It wobbled. Bug King, he announced. Long may he reign, Jet said, saluting with a fork. Starbug climbed into my lap and poked my cheek. We did it. We did something, I said. He nodded solemnly. I'm hungry. That tracks. We fed him. Again. At this point, I was 90% sure his glow was powered by carbohydrates and an unreasonable number of grapes. While he ate, Cora recited incoming messages. Transmission from the Zelvan conquered. They're calling the archive a gift to all species. Also, they want to make the kid honorary ambassador of peace. Do they know he once shorted out a gravity toilet with a peanut butter sandwich? Jet asked. I'm leaving that off his resume, I replied. Cora continued. The Ashen kin are retreating. That got my attention. Retreating. Officially, they issued a statement saying the heir's path has shifted the storm. Unofficially, they're too confused to continue being ominous. Starbug raised both arms and said, I win. You did, I said. But no laser crowns until you're at least 7. Jet dropped into the seat beside me, tilting his head toward the viewport. You think it's over. I think the story's bigger than we thought, but our part. I looked at the boy beside me. He was humming again, idly making his spoon levitate. His glow was softer now, not dimmer, just settled, like he'd found a rhythm for his power instead of just riding the wave. I smiled. Our parts changed. He leaned against me, warm and familiar. Jet clapped his hands. So now what? We start a school, open a noodle shop, tour the archive exhibit with a traveling jazz band. I was thinking quiet. You. Quiet, you just hijacked the entire Galactic comms grid with bedtime stories. Cora cleared her throat. Might I suggest a middle ground? I've plotted a course to a minor system on the edge of the Arkan spiral, peaceful, unregulated. Atmosphere breathable, low pirate density, and an unusually high number of abandoned hot springs. Jet perked up. Hot springs. Starbug's eyes lit. Bubbles. I nodded slowly. You know what? That sounds just about perfect. Cora plotted the jump. The stars shifted. As we sailed into the quiet edges of the galaxy, I realized how much had changed. Not just the kid, not just the universe, but me. I'd gone from salvage pilot with a dodgy past and a scarred ship to a father. A reluctant, clumsy, thoroughly unqualified father, but one who showed up anyway. I'd stared down ancient royalty, deranged cultists, and weaponized foliage, and somehow I'd kept a glowing child alive through it all. Mostly in one piece, minus that one incident with the teleporting hamster, and the best part? He chose stories. He had every reason to lash out, to seek power, to burn the galaxy down and call it justice, but instead he told the truth. He gave the stars back their memory, and they listened. I looked at him again. He was asleep now, curled up in a ball on the dashboard, snoring faintly. A spoon floated above his head like a tiny satellite. Jet lowered his voice. "You're doing all right, you know." I gave a non-committal grunt. "No, seriously. You found a kid in a broken spaceship and raised him into a space savior with a sense of humor and good taste in fruit. You even got him to stop chewing wires." "He still chews them." "Well, yeah, but now he asks first." I looked out at the new stars blinking into view. "Cora," I said, "log